My name is Masidon. I am 29 years old. I work at a small office near the city. I live in a small flat. I am married. My husband's name is Luke. I met Luke 1 year ago. He came to the office to fix some computer problems. I was at the front desk that day. He smiled and said hello. Smiled back. He had brown hair and green eyes. He looked friendly. He helped fix the computer and we started talking. He made me laugh. I liked his voice. It was calm and soft. We talked about work, music, and food. He asked if I wanted to have coffee after work. Said yes. That evening we sat outside a small cafe. He told me he lived alone and worked with computers. I liked how he listened to me. He looked at me when I spoke. He asked questions and gave kind answers. He did not talk too much. I felt safe with him. He said, "You are easy to talk to, Masidon." Felt shy but happy. That night I could not sleep. Kept thinking about Luke. We met again the next day. And the day after that. We had lunch together. We talked during breaks. I told my friend Rachel about him. She said, "Be careful. You just met him." But I did not listen. I liked Luke too much. After 2 weeks he gave me a small gift. It was a silver bracelet. He said, "This is for you. You make me smile." My heart felt full. After 1 month, he asked me to be his girlfriend. I said yes right away. We started spending more time together. On weekends we went to the park or watched movies at my place. He liked to hold my hand. He called me every night. When I was sick he brought soup. When I was sad he made me laugh. Felt lucky. I thought, he is the one. 3 months later he said, "Masidon, will you marry me?" I was quiet. I looked at him. My heart said yes, but my mind said wait. But I loved him too much. I did not want to lose him. I smiled and said, "Yes, I will." We had a small wedding. Only a few friends came. My parents could not come. They live far away. My friend Rachel was there. She gave me a long hug. She said, "Are you sure?" I smiled but did not answer. I was scared but I hid it. I told myself, love is enough. After the wedding, Luke moved into my flat. First everything was fine. We cooked dinner together. We watched movies. We laughed. He kissed me every morning. He said, "I love you, Masidon." Felt warm and safe. But soon small things started to change. He stopped asking me about my day. He stopped saying good morning. He stayed quiet for hours. When I asked, "Are you okay?" he said, "I'm just tired." I believed him. Then he started coming home late. I asked, "Where were you?" He said, "Out with friends." I asked, "Which friends?" He said, "You don't know them." I felt strange but I stayed quiet. I did not want to start a fight. He started using his phone all the time. He smiled at it but not at me. He turned the screen when I walked in. I asked, "Is something wrong?" He said, "Stop asking me things." I felt a sharp pain in my chest. I wanted to cry but I didn't. I told myself, it's just a hard week. He still loves me. One night I cooked his favorite dinner. I put candles on the table. I wore a dress he once said he liked. When he came home he looked at the table and said, "What is this for?" I said, "Just a nice dinner for us." He sat down and ate in silence. He did not say thank you. He did not smile. After dinner he went to the other room. I sat at the table alone. I stared at my plate. The food was cold. My heart felt cold too. That night I cried in the bathroom. I turned on the water so he would not hear. I looked in the mirror. My eyes were red. My face looked tired. I asked myself, is this what marriage should feel like? I started to notice more things. He didn't look at me when I talked. He didn't laugh at my jokes. He didn't hold my hand anymore. He didn't say, I love you. I waited for change. I waited for the man I married to come back. But days turned into weeks. And nothing changed. One morning I made tea and sat at the window. I watched people walk to work. They looked busy. They looked normal. Felt alone. I asked myself, did I marry too fast? The answer came like a whisper. Yes. I looked around the flat. It was our home, but it didn't feel like home anymore. Felt like a place where two strangers lived. Felt lost. Felt small. And I felt one thing most of all, regret. I'm sharing my story, hoping they reach someone. Are you there? Are you listening? Just knowing you're here means everything. Luke left early that morning. He didn't say goodbye. He didn't kiss me. He just took his bag and walked out the door. I stood near the window and watched him go. I wanted to run after him. I wanted to ask, do you still love me? But I stayed quiet. My heart was too heavy. I went to the kitchen and made some tea. I sat at the table, alone again. Later that day I went to work. I tried to smile. I tried to look okay. My boss gave me some papers to check. I nodded and took them. I sat at my desk and stared at the page. The words did not make sense. My eyes felt full. I looked away and blinked fast. I didn't want anyone to see my pain. At lunch, my friend Rachel came to me. She said, "How are you, Masidon?" I forced a smile. "I'm fine," I said. But she didn't believe me. She looked into my eyes. "Do you want to talk?" she asked. I shook my head. "Not now." She touched my arm gently. "I'm here when you're ready." I gave a small nod. She always knew how I felt, even when I said nothing. That evening, Luke came home late again. I was on the sofa, pretending to read. He walked in, dropped his bag, and went straight to the shower. No hello. No smile. I waited. I hoped he would come and sit beside me. I hoped he would ask about my day. But after the shower, he went to the bedroom and closed the door. I sat there in silence. I remembered the early days. He used to bring me flowers. He used to cook with me. He used to look at me like I was special. Where did that man go? What did I do wrong? My heart asked many questions. But Luke gave no answers. One night I tried to speak. "Luke," I said softly. He was sitting on his phone again. "Can we talk?" He didn't look up. "About what?" he asked. "About us," I said. "You feel far away from me." He sighed loudly. "I'm tired, Masidon." "Not now." I waited a second, then stood up and walked to the bedroom. I lay in bed with my eyes open, staring at the wall. I felt like a ghost in my own life. A few days later I stayed home from work. I said I was sick. But the truth was my heart felt broken. I sat by the window all day. I watched cars pass. I heard children laugh in the street. I used to dream of having a child one day. I used to picture Luke holding our baby. But now I didn't even know if we would stay together. That afternoon I opened my old photo album. I saw pictures of Luke and me at the park, at the cafe, at our small wedding. In one photo he was smiling and holding my hand. My face was full of joy. Touched the photo. "Where did we go?" I whispered. My eyes filled again. Later, Luke came home and saw the photo album on the table. He looked at it for 1 second, then looked away. I asked, "Do you remember that day?" He said, "Not really." I felt like he hit me with those words. Closed the book slowly. I said, "You used to care. I don't feel it now." He stood there silent. Then he said, "Maybe we got married too fast." My body felt cold. My hands began to shake. "What are you saying?" Yes. He didn't answer. He just walked away. That night I couldn't sleep. I turned in bed. I looked at Luke, but his back was to me. He didn't hold me. He didn't touch me. I whispered, "Luke, do you still love me?" But he didn't answer. I waited for minutes. Still nothing. I turned to the other side and pulled the blanket tight. My pillow was wet. The next day I went to Rachel. I couldn't keep it inside anymore. I told her everything. I told her about the silence, the cold looks, the late nights. She listened carefully. Then she said, "Masidon, you rushed into this. But that does not mean you must stay in pain." I looked down. "I thought he loved me," I said. "Maybe he did," she said. "But love needs care. Love needs time." Felt a tear fall. "What do I do now?" Yes. "You think," she said. "You think about what you want. Not just what he wants." That night I came home early. I made dinner for two. Waited. Luke came home 2 hours later. He didn't say sorry. He looked tired. I said, "Can we please talk now?" He sat down. "Fine," he said. "What is it?" I took a deep breath. "I don't feel happy. You don't look happy. We don't talk. We don't laugh. This is not what I wanted." He looked at me for a long time. Then he said, "I don't know what to say." I asked him, "Do you love me, Luke?" He looked down. "I don't know," he said. Felt like my chest would break. I stood up. I walked to the window. I looked out into the dark street. "I married you too fast," I said. "I didn't wait. I didn't think. I only felt." Luke stood up too. "Maybe we made a mistake," he said. My heart broke again. "Then what now?" Yes. "Do you want to leave?" He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "I think we need time. Maybe some space." Closed my eyes. Felt tired. Oh, tired. I slept alone that night. Luke slept on the sofa. In the morning he packed a small bag. He said he would stay with a friend for a while. I didn't stop him. I just stood near the door and watched him go. When the door closed, the flat felt too quiet. I walked back to the bedroom. I sat on the bed. I looked at the ring on my finger. Felt heavy. I took it off and placed it on the table. I didn't know what would happen next. But I knew one thing for sure. I married too soon. I didn't wait to see the real person. I wanted love. I wanted care. But I got silence and pain. And now, I only had one thing left. Regret. The days after Luke left were slow and quiet. I woke up early, but there was no one beside me. I made tea, but I only used 1 cup. I cleaned the flat, even though it was not dirty. I wanted to keep busy. I didn't want to sit still. Because when I sat still, I remembered everything. At night the bed felt too big. I looked at the space where he used to sleep. I closed my eyes and tried to forget his voice. But it was still there. I heard him say my name. I heard him laugh. I saw his face. I opened my eyes again and stared at the dark ceiling. One morning Rachel called me. She asked, "How are you today?" I said, "I'm trying." She asked if I wanted to meet. Said yes. We went for a walk near the river. It was sunny, but my heart still felt cold. Rachel looked at me and said, "You are strong, Masidon. I know it hurts, but you will be okay." I looked at the water. Moved slowly just like my days. I said, "I thought he was the one. I thought this was love." Rachel touched my shoulder. "Sometimes we see what we want to see," she said. "But now you see the truth. That is the first step." When I went home, I looked around the flat. His shoes were gone. His coat was not by the door. The air felt different, like something big had changed, like something was missing. I sat on the sofa and held the silver bracelet he gave me. It was cold in my hand. I remembered the first time he put it on me. I was smiling then. Now my eyes were wet. Few days later, Luke called. I stared at the screen for a long time. My heart was fast. Answered. "Hi," I said. "Hi," he replied. His voice was low. "I just wanted to check on you." I didn't know what to say. "I'm fine," I said, but it was not true. He said, "I've been thinking." Waited. He said, "Maybe we moved too fast. Maybe we didn't really know each other." Closed my eyes. "Yes," I whispered. He was quiet. Then he said, "I didn't want to hurt you." My hand started to shake. I said, "But you did." He sighed. "I don't know what I feel. I don't know what I want." I said, "You don't have to call if you're unsure. I need peace now." He didn't reply for a moment. Then he said, "Okay. I understand." And the line went quiet. That night I sat by the window again. I didn't cry. Not this time. I just sat there. I watched the street. I listened to the wind. I thought about my past. I thought about how fast I said yes. I didn't wait. I didn't ask deep questions. I just wanted love. But love is not enough. One weekend I visited my parents. They lived in a small house outside the city. My mother opened the door. She smiled and hugged me tight. My father stood behind her, quiet but kind. They didn't ask many questions. But they looked at me with soft eyes. Felt safe there. That night I sat with my mother. We had warm tea and simple food. She said, "You don't have to talk if you're not ready." He nodded. "I married too soon," I said. She touched my hand. "It happens," she said. "We all make choices. I'm hurt. But they also teach us something." I stayed with my parents for 3 days. I helped my mother with small things. I walked with my father in the garden. I didn't talk much, but I felt lighter. On the last day, my mother said, "When you're ready, go back and live for yourself. Not for him." When I returned home, the flat looked the same. But I was not the same. I opened the windows. I cleaned the kitchen. I put away some things that reminded me of Luke. I wanted a fresh start. Not with someone else. Just with myself. I went back to work. Rachel smiled when she saw me. She didn't ask questions. She just gave me a cup of coffee. I sat at my desk and looked at the paper. This time I could read. Could focus. Felt stronger. That afternoon Luke sent me a message. It said, "Can we meet?" I stared at it. My heart didn't race this time. I thought for a while, then replied, "Okay. Tomorrow. At the cafe near the park." The next day I wore simple clothes. No makeup. No perfume. I wanted to feel like myself. When I walked into the cafe, Luke was already there. He looked different. Not sad. Not happy. Just unsure. He stood up when he saw me. Hi, he said. I sat down. Hi, I said. There was a short silence. Then he spoke. I've missed you, he said. I looked at him. Why? I asked. He looked down. Because you're kind. Because you cared. I stayed quiet. He said, I made mistakes. I stopped trying. I stopped listening. I looked at the table. I said, yes, you did. He looked at me. Can we try again? He asked. My hands felt cold. My chest felt tight. But I spoke with calm. I don't think we should, I said. Not now. Maybe not ever. He looked hurt. But we had good times, he said. He nodded. We did. But good times are not enough. He sat back. So that's it, he asked. I looked into his eyes. I married you too fast. I didn't know the real you. And maybe you didn't know the real me. I don't want to live in fear or silence. I need peace. And I can't find it with you. He didn't argue. He didn't shout. He just nodded. I understand, he said. We sat for one more minute. Then he stood up. Goodbye, Masidon, he said. Goodbye, Luke, I replied. When I walked home, the air felt new. The sky looked brighter. My steps were slow but steady. I felt sad but also free. I knew I made the right choice. And for the first time in many weeks, I did not feel regret. After that last meeting with Luke, I didn't hear from him again. There were no more calls, no more messages. It was quiet, but not the same kind of quiet as before. This time the silence felt soft, did not hurt, gave me space to breathe. I started to focus on myself. I took walks every evening. I watched the sky change colors. I listened to the birds. I made simple meals and sat at the table with music playing. I opened the windows every morning and let the fresh air in. Smiled more. At work I felt stronger. Rachel noticed. She said, "You look better." Smiled. "I feel better," I said. My voice was calm. I wasn't pretending anymore. I still remembered Luke, but I didn't miss the pain. I didn't miss the waiting, the guessing, the cold answers. I missed the dream but not the truth. One night I sat on the sofa with a cup of tea. I thought about the woman I was before the marriage. I remembered how fast I had fallen. How sure I was that love would fix everything. I now knew better. Love without care is not love. Love without time is not safe. And I had learned that the hard way. I didn't hate Luke. I didn't wish him harm. But I no longer wished he would come back. Some people teach us through pain. He was one of those people. He showed me what I should never accept again. Weeks passed. Then months. Life moved forward. I saw Rachel often. We laughed again. We went to the market, to small cafes, to the park. One time we sat under a tree and watched people walk by. Rachel said, "You are not the same woman I met 2 years ago." Smiled. "No," I said. "I am not." I also started reading again. At night, I would sit with a book and lose myself in stories. I loved the quiet. I didn't wait for someone to come home. I didn't worry about someone turning away from me. I had peace. One Sunday morning, I cleaned the drawer where I kept old things. I found the silver bracelet. I held it for a moment. Then I placed it in a small box and closed the lid. I didn't want to see it again. That part of my life was over. Some people asked if I would ever marry again. Said maybe. But only when I feel ready. And only when it feels right. I wasn't afraid of love. I just wanted real love next time, slow, kind, and honest. One rainy afternoon, I saw Luke from across the street. He was walking with a friend. He didn't see me. I stopped for a moment. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. I just looked at him and thought, that part of my life is finished. I turned and walked away. That night I sat near the window again. I watched the rain hit the glass. I thought about the journey I had taken. Had loved. I had cried. I had lost. But I had also learned. I was no longer the girl who said yes too fast. I was no longer afraid to be alone. I placed my hand on my chest. I felt my own heartbeat. It was calm. It was strong. And for the first time in a long time I said to myself, you did the right thing. You chose peace. And I believed it. I hope you have enjoyed the story. Like and comment if you want to hear more soon.